Okay, let's jump in. You've sent over some really interesting material, and yeah, we're ready to do a deep dive.
Sounds good.
The topic that kind of leaps out is Spurs winning the Europa final.
That's right, and the source.
And here's where your source adds that layer of context, the really crucial bit. It calls this Spurs' first trophy. And it specifically says it's been a long while since they won a trophy. It even uses that phrase, they finally done it.
Yeah, phrasing is quite telling, isn't it? Finally done it.
It really is.
What strikes me, looking just at this material, is how it frames the win. It's not just like Spurs 1-2-1, it's framed as ending this long wait.
Right, the duration seems key.
Definitely emphasized.
So our mission here, sticking strictly to what this source tells us, is to unpack the base of facts, Europa final, Man United, Spurs win, but more so understand the meaning the source attaches to it.
Especially through that lens of being the first trophy after a long while.
Yeah, what's the significance according to this source?
Exactly. We're looking at the story the source itself constructs. The victory as breaking that spell, that noted drought.
It gives you the facts, quickly final, opponent, winner. But then immediately gives it weight by saying, first trophy, long time coming.
And that raises a question, doesn't it? Based on how this material frames it.
What's that?
Well, why the big emphasis on the long while and finally done it? It almost suggests the source sees this win as defined by the absence that came before it.
Huh. That's interesting. So not just a win, but the win that ended something specific.
Precisely. The narrative of waiting seems central to how the source interprets the event's importance.
That phrase, they finally done it, it feels like it implies maybe a sense of relief or overcoming a big mental hurdle.
Absolutely. It injects emotion. It suggests there was maybe pressure building over that long while you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So the source isn't just, oh, wait, someone wants to join. Hey, go for it.
Yeah, hello. My name is Junior, again, and I came on last time, and I remember us discussing this, and I believe that, yeah, the whole discussion is about how I said that Spurs will finally win a trophy without Harry Kane, and they've proven my point that they can win a trophy without having Kane in the Spurs team. So what if they could do it for the England team? If the England team went into the World Cup and Harry Kane did not play, do you still think?
Junior, welcome back. It's great to have you join us again.
It's fascinating to hear your perspective on this win.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. You're saying this Spurs win, without Harry Kane, confirms your idea that they could win a trophy even without him.
And now you're wondering if that same dynamic could apply to England without Kane in a major tournament.
That's a really interesting connection to draw. It takes the conversation in a whole new direction.
What's fascinating here is how you're using this specific instance to think about a broader question of team dynamics.
It feels like you're suggesting that sometimes a team might overcome a perceived reliance on a key player and find success in a different way.
This raises an important question about team identity and how it can evolve.
It makes you wonder if the source's emphasis on the long while and finally done it might also hint at a shift in the team's self-belief.
Exactly. Perhaps winning without a historically key figure could contribute to that shift.
So thinking about England, your question opens up this whole area of how a team adapts, both tactically and mentally, when a star player isn't there.
And whether a successful shift in one context, like Spurs, could offer any lessons or possibilities for another, like the England national team.
It feels like the source is saying the real meaning here is in the contrast, the win happening now versus all that time it didn't happen.
Yeah, that contrast is the insight this material offers. And your point, Junior, adds another layer to that contrast, winning with and potentially winning without a specific player.
And if we talk about the bigger picture, but only within what the source presents, and now with your insight too, this focus makes the win less about, say, the tactics of the final match itself.
Right.
And much more about clearing this historical hurdle, or at least the hurdle as perceived by this source, and perhaps now overcoming a different kind of hurdle too, the perceived reliance on one player.
Well put. It's about overcoming that narrative.
Okay, so let's sum up what this specific source seems to be highlighting for us, and how your comment, Junior, enriches it.
Go for it.
Spurs ended this period described as a long while, without silverware. They did it by winning the Europa final, specifically against Man United. And crucially, the source flags this as their first trophy in that time, using that phrase, they finally done it. And your thought, Junior, makes us consider if this finally done it also speaks to winning in a new way without a long-standing key player.
Underscoring the significance it attaches to breaking the drought and perhaps breaking a perceived dependency as well. Yeah.
So the main takeaway, purely from your material and now enhanced by your perspective, revolves around ending that wait and maybe hinting at a new chapter for the team.
Definitely seems to be the central theme presented here, now with that added dimension you've highlighted, Junior.
All right, so here's a final thought, just based on the language and framing in this source you shared and how it connects to your point. Consider this, how the constant repetition of first trophy, long while, and finally done it might suggest something about the team's identity shifting, especially when we consider your point about winning without Kane.
That's a sharp point. The source almost uses the win to highlight the preceding narrative. And your comment makes us think about how that narrative might have included a dependence on a specific player. It shows how a source doesn't just report facts, but guides interpretation, gives historical weight, and how our listeners can add even more to that interpretation.
Exactly. That's the nugget buried in the text you shared, and you've helped us dig even deeper, Junior. It's about pulling out that intended meaning and also the potential for new meanings in light of events like this win without a key player.
A key part of analyzing any source material, and also thinking critically about what victories can signify.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for bringing these sources to us.
Oh yeah, go on.
Yeah. Also, what do you think about Roy Keane's
Back to our listener.
Roy
What's up?
Keane's? What do you think about Roy Keane's situation with what he said?
Well, Junior, that's a really broad question.
It certainly is. And in relation to what we've been discussing,
We've been looking closely at how this piece frames the Spurs victory.
and your thoughts on Harry Kane have added a fascinating angle.
So when we think about it, we're considering how this win is portrayed.
As this really significant moment, ending a long period.
And as you suggested, maybe indicating a change for the team.
We also find it interesting how much can be conveyed in a short text.
How it chooses what aspects to really focus on.
Like how long it's been since Spurs last won a trophy.
Or the fact that the victory was against Manchester United.
And we definitely appreciate how your perspective enriches our understanding.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, but when they played yesterday night, I mean, after the game, Roy Keane said something. Like I said, he said something very specifically, something that stood out to me. And he said that the defense of Manchester United could not handle the game as properly as they were supposed to be, and they haven't been good defensively all season, which I also agreed and said that would be our downfall for if Tottenham were to win the game, because our defense is not at the top of the table or the top of their standard. For us to then go into the Europa League final believing we're going to win and rely on our attackers other than our defenders, but football is a collective. It's not just about the attackers, it's also about the defenders as well. And I think United have a long way to go to re-establish and generate a new United team that can succeed and win more trophies.
Junior, thanks for sharing those specific insights from after the game.
Okay, let's unpack this. You're bringing in comments about Manchester United's defense.
What's fascinating here is how it connects with the source material's emphasis on Spurs finally winning.
You're highlighting a potential reason why they finally won, focusing on the opponent's weaknesses.
This adds a layer to the narrative. It wasn't just about Spurs breaking their drought.
Right, it brings in the context of the specific match and the opponent's performance.
This raises an important question about how much a win is about your own strength versus the other team's vulnerabilities.
So the finally done it might also reflect United's ongoing defensive struggles as you see it.
Exactly. Your point about football being collective really resonates here,
It moves beyond just celebrating the win and looks at the bigger picture for both teams.
and it makes us consider how different factors contribute to that final result.
So in a way, you're providing more of the how behind the what of the win.
Precisely. The source gave us the headline, you're giving us some of the details underneath.
That's a really valuable addition to our discussion. It makes us think about the underlying stories being told.
So in a way, we're thinking about the narrative of this win and the factors that shaped it.
And all the different ways that narrative can be interpreted, including the opponent's role.
Thanks for sharing that, Junior. It definitely adds another dimension to our understanding.
Absolutely. It brings even more context to this significant win.
Okay, so where were we? Ah, yes.
We were just about to consider the significance of the repeated phrases.
Right, like first trophy and long while.
And how that repetition might emphasize a shift in the team's story.
Especially when we factor in your point about winning without Kane and now the opponent's defense.
It really highlights how language shapes our understanding of events.
And how different perspectives can add even more layers to that understanding.
Well, thanks again for your insightful contributions, Junior.
It really makes these deep dives so much more engaging.
Absolutely. And that about... Oh, yeah,
And thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, Junior. It's our pleasure.
We always appreciate you joining the conversation.
Your insights really do add so much to our discussion.
Absolutely. You've given us a lot to think about today.
Especially with your thoughts on Harry Kane and the defense.
It's fascinating how your perspective connects to the source.
So where were we just before you chimed in?
We were looking at those repeated phrases in the source.
Right, the first trophy in the long while.
And how that might point to a shifting team identity.
Considering they finally achieved this win.
And as you suggested, perhaps in a new way.
It really makes you consider the power of narrative.
How a simple piece of text can tell such a story.
And how our listeners, like you, Junior, enrich it further.
It's a collaborative exploration of these topics.
So thank you again for being such an engaged listener.
We really value your contributions and questions.
That brings us to the end of our discussion for today.
Thanks again for joining us, Junior. It was great.